First and foremost, as always, happy Thursday. Hope you're having a great day so far and prepping and getting excited for our holiday weekend. Um, Thank you for tuning in today for our May Accelerate series, where our topic is on starting estate conversations with Asset Map. Our hope today is that you'll leave today's training thinking about some tools that you might be able to leverage as you start having estate conversations. If you're not using them already, perhaps you are, or maybe there'll be some best practices that you didn't even know that you could do with some of those tools. That is the whole purpose of today's call. Now, is this being recorded? Yes, it is being recorded. I do send the replay out to everybody as soon. Usually it's about an hour or two after the session concludes. However, if you are an enterprise client, excuse me, some of our enterprise clients, their compliance teams require me to submit the replay to them first, and then it gets approved, and then I can send it out. So if for any reason you don't get the replay before the end of the day, it's likely that you're an enterprise client and you might just have to wait a couple days. Usually they're pretty good about doing it in under a week's time. Okay, so is this being recorded? Yes. Will you be able to get the recording either today or in a week or so? The answer is going to be yes. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. If you have questions during today's call, feel free to use the chat feature in Zoom. I do keep a very close eye on that. If the questions are applicable to the group, I will answer them live. If they're a little too case specific, I'll probably ask that we just table that and talk offline, or reach out to the support team, just because don't like to get too in the weeds with things that might not be applicable for the large masses of the group. All right, so first I'll start by introducing myself. For those of you I have not had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is LiaJean McHenry. Most people call me LJ. You can call me LiaJean. It doesn't matter. I am our Senior Manager of Customer Success here at AssetMap. Been here the last 5 years. Pretty sure I've been hosting this Accelerate series webinar now for 5 years, which is pretty crazy to say out loud. So if you're not familiar, this is a series that I host every single month. It's typically the third Thursday or fourth Thursday, depending on how many Thursdays there are in a month. I do my best to try to kind of spread them out so that it works for the groups. And the whole purpose of the Accelerate series webinar is to teach you about different topics or different features and things. So the topic changes every single month. And we do always post upcoming trainings and things like that on our corporate site. We also usually do some in-app messaging and or send out an email reminder. So just always be on the lookout if you're ever looking for more training. And if today's your first time joining me and you're like, hey, I kind of liked that webinar, I'd kind of wish that I could watch some of your past replays. You can, because I store all of them and they're available to you in the support center. All you have to do is search for the Accelerate series webinars and you can find all the past replays. Now, in terms of our agenda today, we're going to be talking about the importance of having estate planning conversations and what tools in Asset Map can help you do that. So we're going to talk about the Asset Map report, beneficiary visualization, relationship maps, the ability to add legal instruments, the importance of the client portal and how pivotal that can be. And then all throughout our training today, I will always kind of show you where you can find some additional support and resources. And if you ever want to work on something case specific, you can reach out to the support team. There's lots of different ways that you can do that, either live chat, email, phone support. You can even proactively ask to schedule time if you want to put time on someone's calendar. You know, we're always here as a resource for you and certainly want to set you up for success. And let me just say, before we get started, I do think that the people that reach out to support probably the most tend to be the most successful, only because, I mean, it's normal to have questions, right? That's part of being a human being. If you have a question, you should ask it. And especially when you're learning a technology or perhaps you've been on Asset Map for a long time, regardless, you're not left to your own devices. If you need help, we're here. It's just a matter of whether or not you're going to utilize us as a benefit and a resource to you. All right, so let's go ahead and start our conversation with the importance of estate conversations, okay? Estate planning, to be honest, I think we all know, it can be complex and it can be quite a daunting process for both clients and yourselves as advisors. And I will say that with numerous financial instruments, legal considerations, personal desires that can be at play, it is kind of easy, and it's easy for important details in general to slip through the cracks. It's just a fact. Now, the asset map platform streamlines this process, offering you all, as the financial professionals, a powerful tool to visualize a household's complete financial picture and facilitate critical estate planning conversations. Now, while estate planning covers a broad spectrum, we have found that solving these key challenges can address a majority of the problems most estates tend to experience. And these key challenges are ensuring transparency in the legal and financial inventory, clarifying beneficiary intentions, and providing a shared access to financial details with loved ones. Okay. That might take on unfamiliar roles, right? So just some things to keep in mind. And that's really what I've kind of designed this training to be on today. So keeping those key challenges in mind, what are some features that can help us facilitate and have those conversations? So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and hop in app. And where I'd like to start today is going to be on the asset map itself, okay? The power of the asset map. Oh gosh, don't you just love when you flip out of a PowerPoint, it flips you back in there anyway, okay? Anytime I look at an asset map, I always think, what's on your treasure map? Now, the asset map report is going to offer a visual representation of a household's financial landscape. So it's going to list off the necessary members, okay, members that make up that household, legal entities that make up that household, whether that could be like businesses, trusts, other additional legal documents and things like that, that might be notating a will. And then, of course, on the asset map, it's going to host and showcase all their assets, their liabilities, their cash flows, okay. This provides a family treasure map. And it often will reveal the complexities of ownership and tax structures for you to examine. So for many households, it's the first time that they've maybe ever been empowered to actually see and participate in their financial inventory. Now, I've been at Asset Map for 5 years. I'm very passionate about our product. Why? Because I believe that our product helps your clients. And yes, you technically are my client, right? Like you, as the financial professional, subscribe to our platform. And yes, I always want you to win. I want you to be super successful. I want you to make money. I want you to service your clients in the best way possible. But you know why I really appreciate this tool? Because I think that this matters to clients. I think that the asset map helps clients. And I always have said this from the very beginning, that an asset map is an asset for people's estates. And I don't even think that people realize that they need one, but you do, because you know what? People don't expect unexpected things to happen, but they happen all the time. If any of you have followed me the last 5 years, you may or may not know that 3 years ago, my dad was killed by a drunk driver. Okay. It was terrible. Quite literally the worst thing that's ever happened in my entire life. And here I am. I've been working in the fintech space for, at the time, that would have been almost 7 years. And I knew the importance of having a plan for a family, having things in a financial order. I had been telling my parents for weeks, like, you need to set up a trust. You need to get connected with a financial advisor. They're like, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We've been going back and forth for months. My dad finally was like, okay, we did it. We scheduled a meeting. We're going to do all the things. I'm like, okay, good. My dad died a week before that meeting ever took place. Okay. I share this with you, not for you to feel bad for me. You don't need to feel bad. I mean, you can feel bad for me, but you don't need to feel bad for me. It's a very tragic and unfortunate thing, but unfortunately these things happen. And I'll tell you what, it was really stressful in the beginning because the conversation of financials and money came up so fast. And to be honest, it was really upsetting to me because I thought, how can we even be talking about this right now when I'm just even trying to wrap my head around that I'm never going to see or speak to this person that I needed again, right? And that's the thing. You're going through grief, but time doesn't stop. Life doesn't stop. My dad died at the end of the month. His employer logged that he was deceased. My mom lost insurance, I think a week after my dad died. I'm sharing this with you for context, okay? Because it is important to have a plan in place. And I believe that if you provide an asset map to every single one of your clients, if it's not for them, it's for the people in their life. Because you know what? If we had had an asset map built for my parents, things would have been a lot less stressful in the very beginning because we just didn't know what was there. My poor mother is a preschool teacher. She's sitting there thinking, like, how am I supposed to pay for the remainder of the mortgage in the time we have left when he was supposed to work another 10 years? She's like, you might need to move home to like help me. I'm like, of course, like without a doubt, like if she needs that, I'll do that. But then I'm sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, am I going to be living at home forever paying for my mom's mortgage? Like, what do they have from a financial perspective? Now, turns out everything was fine. My dad had life insurance policies, voluntary policies through work, things like that, 401k, all of that. And listen, my parents have been together since high school. Okay. They didn't hide things from one another. It's just not always like a topic of conversation in every single household. So I share with you this, that if we had just had an asset map in the very beginning, we would have been a lot less stressed out in that first week. And that first week was terrible. Do you know what I mean? And one of the things that I did for my mom once I got to where my parents lived, because I was living out of state at the time, is I said, listen, I'm going to build you an asset map. I know you don't know everything, but we're going to do our best to get this built to the best of our ability. And I'm going to get you set up with a financial advisor. And that's what we're going to do. Funny enough, her financial advisor also uses asset map. So in theory, he ended up building her one anyway. Right. And now she's in a good place, doesn't take away the loss that someone's experienced, but at least feeling like that there's a plan and feeling like someone is supporting you and is going to be there for you, it does make a difference. So I say to you all, thank you for the work that you do in this industry, because I do believe that financial health is arguably just as important as physical health. And I think not being financially well actually causes a detriment to our physical health. So you do play a very significant role here. And I think that providing an asset map report to everyone that you work with by saying, like, this is your treasure map, we're going to be able to share this report with any other financial people that we need to. So maybe they have a tax representative, or they have a legal representative, or other trustees and professionals. You, as the financial advisors, you can optimize legacy planning and ensure that all relevant parties have clarity on the current state of a financial instrument and its ownership and its arrangements, and more importantly, the opportunities to optimize. You're going to have the opportunities to optimize, enhance, and strategize. And those opportunities are going to become more and more obvious. It's hard to advise what you can't see. Am I right? It's hard to advise on what we can't see. And ensuring transparency is the first step in all planning, especially estate planning. So what I would say from an estate planning perspective, the number one tool that you for sure want to start in using is the asset map, which you likely already have built out several asset maps for your clients, but you can start having estate planning conversations here. The next piece to this is who's getting what, right? One of the major issues in estate planning is ensuring that intended beneficiaries align with current legal documentation. Right? So this is where you can leverage incredible tools that we have, like the beneficiary visualization, which I'm going to show you in a moment. That feature helps you as the financial professional create a clear visual register of recipients. And what that's going to do is it's going to help you avoid confusion and unnecessary probate costs. Now, by regularly reviewing and updating the beneficiary designations, this is going to help you all as financial professionals help your clients with their legacy intentions and to ensure that they're upheld and that the assets are transferred smoothly. In addition, showing how money may flow or transfer when it's go time. And this is where you can also leverage relationship maps. So the next two features we're going to focus on for just a moment is the beneficiary visualization and relationship maps. Now, you may or may not be aware that once we get an asset map built to the best of our ability, one of the natural next places that we can go is straight to the beneficiary report, okay? In the beneficiary interactive report, you're going to have two separate views you can look at. You can look at the list view, or you can look at the visual. The beneficiary visualization does tend to be a crowd favorite simply because it's a bit more digestible, but I'm going to be very transparent with all of you today. Both of these views are exactly the same information. It just depends on how you prefer to digest and or present it, okay? How these sections work, I'll start on the list, is you can only select one person at a time up at the top. The intention is if this person passed away today, what's all their unearned income, their assets, their liabilities, their insurance, and who are their primary beneficiaries. That's what this means. Or if Lauren dies today, who are her contingent beneficiaries? Now in this listed view, it's the exact same thing if I switch to the visual. It says if Lauren dies today, who are her contingent beneficiaries? Now going back to the list view, in the list view, the column you want to pay close attention to is the unassigned column. Okay, anything listed as unassigned means that either A, you don't know who the beneficiary is, or B, you forgot to add it, or C, we need to ask. Okay, ideally, you would have some form of a beneficiary in there based off of your knowledge. But listen, if you don't manage the account, you're not a mind reader, right? Listen, I can't tell you how many times I've had conversations with people. They call me, they're like, well, I don't know what to put there. I'm like, well, put anything. You're not a mind reader. My gosh, like if you don't manage that asset, how could anyone expect you to know what the value is or know what the beneficiary is? No, you're not a mind reader. If the expectation is that you need to know what that stuff is, then either A, they need to tell it to you, or B, it needs to get moved under your management so that you have eyes on it at all times and can advise on it. And I'm just going to say this, I've had people that have gotten additional assets under management simply from that, because they've come to the asset map report, they update the tiles for the things that they manage. Right? Because that's an expectation. Heck yeah. Like if you're managing a few of my assets, I expect that you know how much is in those assets, how they're allocated, who the beneficiaries are. Everything else though, like if it's not under your management, it is part of my duty and being in a relationship with you that I have to communicate and share those details back. Or I might need to think about moving some of that stuff under your management just so that you have all of it, and then you can keep my asset map more updated in a better way for me. Okay, so let's go back to the beneficiary visualization. Again, it's going to be here in the interactive beneficiary report, and you can flip between the list and the visual. And like I said, you're looking at the unassigned column. Okay, so as you can see, not really anything unassigned. I will mention that joint right of survivorship accounts do show as unassigned, but whoever you have selected, like Neil, for example, if he passed away today, it's showing that these 4 accounts, 2 of them are hard assets, property specifically, okay, it's showing as unassigned. But if you look to the right, it knows that, hey, if he died first, then it would go to his wife. Just like if we switch it to her, if she died today, those same 4 assets here are going to be listed, okay, as unassigned, but it knows that it would go to Neil. We are going to be making some enhancements to this in the coming weeks, so you can stay tuned for that. We're going to do a little bit of a better job of kind of making it more clear when something's like joint right of survivorship. So it is accurately displaying what would take place, because you can't pick a beneficiary when it's joint right of survivorship because it's dependent on who passes away first. But just know that we will be having some enhancements coming up there too. Now, the visual is the exact same information. It just changes how it's listed out. And some people prefer this because it looks a bit more simplified. So look, if Lauren passed away today, who are her primary beneficiaries? Well, look, we're going to come under unassigned, and we would click on the assets, and we'd say, okay, no, these are fine because these are all joint right of survivorship, right? These are all jointly owned. That's why if I click on Neil, you can see that it knows to auto assign those because it's based on who passes away first. Now let's pivot to another household for just a second, okay? This is a very complex household, a lot of moving parts, lots of trusts. They own a business. We got, some of the business employees and things listed on here, okay? If I go to this household's beneficiary report and I go on the visual, okay, I'll start with John. John is my primary client. If John passes away today, who are his primary beneficiaries? If I click on this assets drop down, it says $17 million of assets are unassigned. That feels problematic. Let's click on that, okay? Now, a lot of these things are jointly owned, but a lot of them are not as well. So like, for example, this 401k, this Fidelity 401k has about $1.1 million. This actually should be under the IDGIT, okay, the Doyle Trust IDGIT. So all I have to do is click on the 401k. It takes me straight to the beneficiary tab, and I can pick who the primary beneficiary is. I can scroll on this list, and I can pick the proper trust in which that account would be the beneficiary for, okay? And then I could go ahead and click update. And you'll notice that from this visual view, if I go back here, it just went down to 16 million. Click on assets again. Now there's no Fidelity 401k there. This ESOP, okay, this retirement account, This actually should have Maureen listed as the primary beneficiary. All I have to do is click on the ESOP. It takes me right into the beneficiary section. I click here, I notate who the beneficiary is. And maybe we don't know who the contingent beneficiary is yet. That's fine. We can leave it blank and we can have that conversation when we're ready. So, who's getting what? One of the most important things I think that we all know is you have to have your beneficiaries up to date. And listen, I know people put things off, but listen, I just had an honest conversation with an advisor the other day, and he has clients that he loves very dearly. And unfortunately, they're going through a situation like this right now where his primary client needed to update his beneficiary because he had this really large, I can't remember if it was like a retirement account or something, but there was no beneficiary listed on it. The advisor was like, listen, I need to get this updated. But at the time, that gentleman didn't have his wife's like social security number or the proper things that they needed in order to like notate the beneficiary. So they're like, oh, we're going to do it later. And then unfortunately that person passed away. And now that account, they're like going through probate with it right now. And, you know, I know how that feels. Like, I know what that's like for all of us as financial professionals, where you're like, listen, we really need to get this done. But there is something to be said about a level of urgency there. And I'm sure that you've witnessed this either yourself, have clients that have been through something similar. I'm not saying you should scare people into speeding things up a bit, because I don't condone that. But I do think that sometimes people need to hear, like, I know you think that you can put this off for a couple weeks, but if something happens and we don't have this updated, this is going to be really problematic for your family. So can you take the 15 minutes to call or do what we need to do to get this teed up, tied up, whatever? And I think that people are going to tend to respond. And I'm sure you have stories that you can share, right? You're welcome to even use my own personal story, right? People don't think about this stuff happening, but it happens all the time. I even was thinking, I'm not married. I don't have kids. I just rescued a dog 2 months ago. So I joke that I have a son, because that's how it feels. I didn't know that I'd be one of those people that's like, oh, I have a child and it's my dog. But I do kind of feel that way on the inside. But even myself, I'm thinking, God forbid, if I like drop dead tomorrow or something terrible happened to me, I need to have a plan in place for like who would come and check on my dog. So I started putting like contingencies in place. Like, my neighbor has a key to my house, and I said, listen, if you don't see or hear from me for a couple days, like, my mom is going to call you because she's not going to have spoken to me for a couple days, and someone needs to come get my dog. And then my dog will go to my mom's house. My mom will care for my dog. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but maybe it's from experiencing a really traumatic event myself, losing my dad, but I just don't want anyone to not be taken care of, and I don't want my finances to be in disarray. So I always really stay on top of that stuff, and I think it's important that we encourage our clients too. Now, along the lines of who's getting what, you can also leverage relationship maps. So if you're not familiar with relationship maps, they live in a household under relationships. It's the visual view. So you can flip between the list view and relationship maps. These views are different. They show different information. I mean, the same information, but the way it's designed is going to be different, right? So the list view will just show you any of the members and the entities that make up this household. The relationship map is something that you can customize and build on your own. A lot of people are leveraging relationship maps for estate planning conversations, because the only things that flow through to relationship maps are the members and the entities and the financial professionals that make up these people's financial pictures. So you can isolate your primary clients, and you can put all of their trust, and you can put what the next generation looks like, and you can use custom text boxes to notate things like, this islet needs attention, we need to make updates to it. This particular trust, we've already distributed $10 million. These 3 trusts collectively together today, that's about $25 million that's pending, that will be distributed. There's a lot of ways for you to leverage relationship maps to visually show people how things might transfer and or move, and what's going, what's going to what. For example, I teed up a household here. I actually added this household and titled it the Miller Estate. So basically, we have this client. Okay, I built a hypothetical scenario off of a real one that I have seen before. Okay, but I have this estate for this gentleman who has since passed. The estate's worth about $6.4 million. And right now what I'm helping do is between his 3 children, we're working out getting the estate, divvied up and split up where it needs to go. Now, this particular gentleman owned a ranch, okay, Howling Ranch. Howling Ranch is being ran by his second oldest son. Okay, so he has 2 sons, one's 61, one's 57, and a daughter that's 54. So Samson is currently living on this property, is managing the ranch, owns the ranch home. So we also have to have notate that chunk of money is going to come out, and then we're going to make it right between the other 2 kids, assuming, because he's got this particular, we have to take out the house as being part of take it out of his estate. And then the remainder of whatever's left, right, we're going to divide up between the 3 kids. So in short, it doesn't matter. It can be a complex estate plan. It can be really simplified. It's up to you. I see people that are using it in this way. Like, for example, this particular family, right? Primary clients here. We've got Mimi Jetson, who's Neil's mom. We got Barry, who is their son. I can also come to relationship maps and simply just build something like this, where I just want to have a generation conversation, right? This is generation 1, generation 2, generation 3, and here are some plans that we need to get in place if those things were going to take place. So in terms of tools, when you're thinking about who's getting what, the importance of obviously making sure that beneficiaries are up to date is going to be important, but sometimes people visually may not be tracking with you in terms of how you're saying that things are going to get divided up, or where's money going to get pulled from, and go to each person. You can use relationship maps to help you do that. Bear in mind that as of today, relationship maps, you can create 10 relationship maps per household, and relationship maps do not flow through to a report printout as of today. That will likely change in the future, but as of right now, relationship maps is designed for you to visually be able to have an interactive conversation in app. Okay, so I just want to set honest expectations. Now, the next feature I want to talk to you all about is actually on the asset map, and it's the legal pill right up here, okay? The question I always like to think about from an estate planning perspective is, what do we have set up from a legal perspective, right? Do you have a will in place? Do you have a power of attorney? So for those of you that might be new to asset map, or perhaps you've been with us for a long time, you've likely seen that now you see the legal pill at the top of the screen. You can click on that. It'll show you any legal instruments that you've added. Now, keep in mind, it'll only show legal instruments tied to the people who are selected. So see how it says 2? Well, look, if I click on Mimi Jetson, all of a sudden legal switched to 3. Why? Because technically there are 3 legal instruments that were added, but only 2 of them are tied to the primary clients, and the other one is going to be tied to the mother-in-law or the mom, okay? So just because in the default view, for an asset map, it's the primary client on the left, the spouse and partner on the right. You could have 10 legal instruments added, but if half of those legal instruments aren't necessarily tied directly to Neil or Lauren, because they might be for like other adult members in the family, then it may not always show you the full list of legal instruments here in the pill, okay? In your sidebar on the right-hand side of the screen, you can close your sidebar or keep it open. If you see the applets over on the right, it means your sidebar is opened. As a reminder, if sidebar is open, when you click on a member or an entity, it'll open that member or entity or instrument to the right-hand side of the screen. Some people don't like that. I'm going to be honest. I'm a creature of habit. I've been working at AssetMap for 5 years. I actually prefer to keep my sidebar closed so that when I click on an instrument or member, it opens the module in the middle of the screen. Now, I prefer this view because that's just what I'm used to. I like to work through the top tabs horizontally. However, when you click on a member or an entity, it does kind of block half of the map. And that was part of the request of sidebar, was like, you can't always see the full asset map, and we need to be able to see that. So if that's a view that you prefer, you can just keep your sidebar open. And then when you click on a member or an instrument or an entity, it'll just open it to the right-hand side of the screen. The same 3 tabs are here. They just go vertically instead of horizontally. So it really just comes down to preference. And I'd like to just preface that for the group because everybody works differently, okay? It doesn't matter. It's up to you. Now, I'm opening up sidebar to talk more about legal instruments because at any time you can click on legal here. And again, it'll show you any legal instruments that have been selected, but only for the people that are selected at the top. So again, I have to click on Mimi to see that third legal instrument. So just be mindful of that when it comes to legal. Now from this view, I can also add in any additional wills or testamentary trusts or financial power of attorney. We recently added advanced healthcare directive. Okay. And then we have other as like a catch-all. Okay. So just know that we've got those options in there, and you're not uploading documents here. You're just notating what makes up that legal instrument. Like for example, this is a buy sell unfunded that I added in as other. Okay, I came in and I notated all the necessary details. There's also a notes section here. So if you do want to like link out to another tool or something that might show additional information pertaining to this, you're welcome to do so. You may or may not have known that we've made some recent enhancements to notes, but you can now add in numbered bullets or regular bullets, when you can also add colored text. So for some of you that might be using notes for action items, next steps, internal note keeping, whatever the case might be, I just wanted to mention that since we're here. We recently released that update. So in case you weren't aware of it, we have enhanced that particular section. Now, when it comes to legal documents, right, it's really important that we know if there's a will, are the trusts set up appropriately? It's just one piece of the estate plan, right? But we need to know what those are. So I think that having legal at the top center of the asset map at all times will be a good reminder for you if you have not obtained that information yet, or even if they're like, oh no, we haven't thought about it. It can always be like a consistent reminder, like you do need to think about it and we do need to get some plans in place. And maybe you will be the one to help them do that, or you have like a third party that you can refer people to. So something to consider there. Now, one of the last things that I want to mention to you is this kind of idea of you won't be lost. I made a map for you. Okay. At the moment of a client's passing, those left behind are often faced with overwhelming responsibilities without clear guidance. And I know this because I've experienced it firsthand with my own loss in my own family. Okay. The client portal is actually a very overlooked feature that provides a secure platform for selectively sharing the asset map with critical parties such as like a surviving spouse or an executor or maybe a legal professional. This ensures that all relevant stakeholders have access to the necessary financial information that they need, and that'll help them navigate estate matters more efficiently and minimizing the risk of delays and costly errors that really can make a really negative impact on people. Because listen, when legacy matters, so does the thoughtfulness behind who we leave it in charge of, who we leave in charge of it. So if you're not leveraging the client portal, it is something for you to consider. If I flip back to this kind of more very complex household, okay, I've got my primary clients, John and Maureen. Well, the executor of their estate, okay, it might be an individual, or maybe it's going to be their daughter, Eva, okay? And the thing that we have to think about is like, if something was to happen to either of these people, like who's going to have access to the asset map at any time? Now, when you're thinking of the client portal, I would say for the most part, you're going to give your primary clients access if you have not done that already. Okay. Oh, I see a question in the chat. I'm just going to address this. Okay. It says, how does the legal pill get to the top center area? So it is automatically turned on there unless you turned it off. And if you were like, what do you mean you can turn it on or off? All you have to do is right click your mouse on the asset map where there's white space, and you can click your toggle visibility option. And all you have to do is make sure that legal's checked on. So it's likely if you don't see the legal pill that you might have accidentally checked it off. And by the way, you can do that. I mean, you could uncheck legal, and if you do that, it removes the legal pill. But you can still view legal instruments at any time using legal in sidebar. And if you didn't know this, all legal instruments that get added all flow through here to the financial section too. Okay, so in the financials area, if you scroll down, there's a legal instruments section. So you can pick and choose, do you want the legal pill to appear on the digital asset map, yes or no? And the reason why we made that available is because for some people, when they go to print off an asset map report, they don't want the legal pill on the report printout. If that's the case, you have to uncheck legal in that toggle visibility section, right? And then you could bring it back later if you wanted to. So just be mindful that whatever the digital asset map looks like and you go to click print, that's what's going to be on the report printout. So if the legal pill is hidden, it will not be on the report printout. If I right click my mouse and I bring my legal instrument back, okay, it'll be back listed up at the top, the legal pill. So just wanted to mention that. Okay. Now, when it comes to a client portal, if you're going to give them access, you have to click into the client of whom you want to give access to. So if you predominantly work with the primary client and you don't speak to the spouse that often, I always say that always makes me nervous. I'm like, you really want to build some form of a relationship there, because God forbid if something happened and that money does transfer over to the spouse, if they have no relationship with you and might have been introduced to other people that they feel might be more supportive, or they just feel like they know them better, it doesn't necessarily mean the money's going to stay with you, right? So you always want to make sure that we're engaging the spouse. And we've always kind of said that one of the things I like that our CEO talks about, and the same thing with others in our company, is that in every household there tends to be one CFO, right? And the CFO tends to predominantly be the primary client that you speak to the most. And arguably I would say, I don't know that they're the ones that even really need the asset map. It's everybody else in their family that needs it, because you know where everything is, you feel comfortable with where that's all at, but that doesn't mean that anybody else in the family does. So it's the partners, it's the kids that we need to think about, that God forbid something happens, if they need to know what's available, then we're going to have an asset map ready and we're going to continue that relationship. So the client portal lives in every single member in the arrow icon, and you have to decide if you're going to give them access to a client portal. To give them client portal access, all you have to do is create an invite and send it to them. Okay, it's not automatic, so you have to create the invite and then you have to send it to them. But you would just have to first decide, hey, do you want this person to require using a specific email address? Their email address is their username, okay? So either A, you let them pick what email address they want, or B, you say, no, they have to use the email address I have on file for them. Up to you. Next, you have to decide a permission set, okay? As of today, the system has two defaults. Number one is asset map report view only. This means, hey, this person could log in and view this digital asset map report and print the report, but that's it. View only and can print it. Well, that might be great for an executor of an estate or an adult child that might need to have access in the event something happens. Or in general, if you're like, no, I just want the spouse to at least have the map, that's fine. But this is a very limited view. The other view is all available view only, which is if this person logs in, they're going to have access not only to the asset map report, but they can see the relationship section, the financial section, high level signals, balance sheet, policy summary, beneficiary, shared reports. You have to decide. For some of my clients, or rather from some of my advisors, I should say, for the clients, they might give all available, right? But if, for example, they want their daughter Eva to be set up for success in the event that something happens to them, either they give me Eva's contact information and we have a plan in place where, God forbid, if something happens, I know that I am supposed to supply her with an asset map report and we'll continue the conversation. Or I can say, listen, let me turn Eva on. Okay, so you can deselect and select along the members and the entities at the top. I can click into Eva, come to client portal, and I could say, you know what, I do want to give her access to view her parents' asset map at any time. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to create a client portal invite so that she can do that. So that when she logs in, it's a view of her parents' asset map. And the idea here is that obviously you need to do it, be selective in who you're sharing that with, and it needs to be, the proper critical parties, such as a surviving spouse or an executor or legal professionals that you might align with in this industry, that you do joint work or whatever the case may be. But if you're not leveraging the client portal, I do think it's something that you might want to consider, especially from an estate perspective, because the idea is hey, listen, you have access to this digitally 24/7. You can log in at any time and view your map. Okay, every time we meet, we'll look at this, we'll make sure it's up to date. If anything needs to be added or adjusted, you let me know. and we'll make sure to do that and kind of go from there. Okay, so what are the features that we talked about today? Again, number one, the first concept is what's on your treasure map, right? What do you have? Where is it located? Are there any gaps that need to be fixed or filled? Next, who's getting what? Let's make sure that our beneficiaries are in order. Let's make sure that people understand how things are going to transfer and move. We can leverage beneficiary visualization for that. We can leverage relationship maps. Legal documents are important, okay? Rather, legal instruments, I should say. So notating what those legal instruments are. Do you have a will? Okay. Do we have a power of attorney? We need to capture that information. And then lastly, just remembering the client portal as an option. Okay. We can do that there too. Okay. And then we can kind of go from there. There was a question that came to the chat. Do we have to have something signed to give Asset Map portal login to others? That would probably be a compliance question if you report to a compliance team. I don't know of one, but depending on, if you're an RIA or if you're affiliated with a broker dealer or something like that, there might be rules on that. So just as a disclaimer, I think it's safe to say that you just might have to look into that internally to determine, if any type of a form or something like that might need to be signed. All right, as we continue on and start to think about wrapping up today, I'd love to engage you all by populating a quick poll. My question to you is, do you love Asset Map? And if you do, would you be willing to leave us an honest review? So if you are somebody that has found great experience with Asset Map, whether that's success or anything like that, please feel free to leave us a review. It's great for your peers and people that are out there looking for technology that might be able to help them elevate the level of service that they provide. For a lot of you that are saying, yes, I'm going to post a link in the chat right now. You can click on that and you can actually leave us a review. You can click on the link and then do it right when you get off of our call, so it's fresh in mind. And for those that said not at this time, no worries. I completely understand and I appreciate your participation nonetheless. All right, as we wrap up today, I want to thank you for joining today's call. We've actually never really done a webinar, or at least I haven't, on estate planning conversation. So I hope you found value in it and it gave you a little bit of thoughts and insight as to how you might be able to leverage some of these tools. Always be on the lookout for upcoming events and training. So once I get the June Accelerate series planned and scheduled, we'll be sending out some notifications surrounding that. For those of you that said that you'd leave us a review, thank you. I appreciate that. I posted the link. I'll also provide it in the email follow-up if you prefer. And then lastly, if you have any interest, our next Asset Map Virtual Bootcamp is actually coming up at the end of July. So if you're unaware, we actually offer a Asset Map Virtual Bootcamp once a quarter. And our next one for what will that be? Quarter 3 will be coming up at the end of July. So we actually just hosted our boot camp about 2 weeks ago for quarter 2. So our next one will be coming up. For those of you on the professional level subscription, we are offering early bird pricing right now. So that's 35% off a ticket. Make sure that you take advantage of that because that will be going away. I think we're going to allow it through next Wednesday, just past the holiday. And then don't forget that if you're an elite level subscriber, you actually get to attend bootcamp at no cost because bootcamp is actually included in your subscription for what you already pay. So there's a tremendous amount of value there if you're on the elite level subscription because you could come to bootcamp 4 times a year if you wanted to and you don't have to pay, I'll let you look up the ticket price, but I'm just letting you know you're getting a good deal. Okay. So if you have that, please feel free. Oh, sure. I can look into allowing, somebody just chatted in, please change setting to allow copy and paste from chat into the notes we're taking. I don't know if that is a setting, but I can look into that to see if that's something we can do. Also in the replay, the chat, I don't know if the chat is available in the replay. I don't think it shows up there. So I'll also provide any links in the follow-up email. So you can also just count on the links coming in an email follow-up too. Okay. All right. Well, I'll look into it. I'm not familiar with that. Anyway, so we'll go ahead and wrap up today. And if any of you have any interest in letting me know what you thought of today's training, I would sincerely appreciate it. All you have to do is go ahead and click on a quick link here. Let me go ahead and grab that. Sorry, let me grab it for you really fast. Boop, boop, boop. Let me open up my PowerPoint here. Okay. Yep. So all you have to do is you can scan the QR code and you can give me your honest feedback of what you thought of today's training. And then I'll go grab the link. For those of you that prefer to do the link, you can click on the link straight from there. It should show as a hyperlink, but for whatever reason, it's not populating on my page. So I got to go grab it for you all really quick. So here you go. All right. Copying that, pasting that in the chat. Let me know what you thought of today's training. Other than that, thank you so much for all of your time and your attention today. I hope you found our call valuable. I'll hang on the line here. If you have any final questions, feel free to add them into the chat. Otherwise, have a great rest of your week. Hope you have a wonderful and safe holiday, and I look forward to seeing you at the next one. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.